Okay, so thank you everyone. As Thomas said, my name's Peter Wyatt and I'm Joint Project Leader on the ISO 32000 Part 2 project. My title says PDF2 is here. Maybe I was a little bit premature. We're literally a day or so away from submitting to ISO. But as we go through, I'll explain where we're up to. So to begin with today's talk, I wanted to give you an idea of what it's going to be about. So I'm doing this in conjunction with Duff. Unfortunately, Duff can't be here today. Those that were here yesterday would have seen him presenting on some topics from Boston. So I want you to understand, as a result of this presentation today, understand just some of the key changes in PDF 2.0. It's a very large document, and to be honest, I really can't present every change. So I'm going to focus, instead of on the technical details, which might be a bit dry, try and focus on the end user perspective. Why we added things, maybe what you can do with these new features to enable new options, new features in your products. And also maybe help you prepare for PDF 2.0. So think about how you can leverage these new features. The spec obviously is a very broad spec. So you are able to take the features and apply it in unique and novel ways. And that's really what we're hoping, I think, that everyone will do and grow the industry. So let's move forward. So I'm going to begin by discussing how we got to PDF 2.0. So it's been 24 years or almost 25 years since Adobe PDF 1.0. That's been a long time, but since then, in 2008, we've had 2 drafts per year for review. And I'll explain the review process in just a minute. So that's been a number of documents, a very large number of documents that have been updated, put out for review, commented and brought back and revised. We hope it will be published this month. As I said, we're literally days away from finishing. When Duff and I submit to ISO, I believe it will only be a few more days before it's actually available in your national bodies for a purchase. And as a result of PDF2, and as we heard yesterday in a number of talks, there will be various updated subsets coming very soon. So as my diagram illustrates, 32,000 provides the base for these other standards to be built upon. So we've got updates coming from PDFX, as we heard yesterday, PDFE, PDFA, and PDFUA. So just some stats. These are just random stats I pulled out by mining the old documents. So back in PDF1 days, 1993, 230 pages, 43 tables, 42 figures. It was a big doc, but it wasn't huge. Go down to the bottom line, ISO 32000 Part 1, published in 2008, 756 A4 pages and 78 normative references. Moving forward to PDF2, we're currently at 970 pages, and give or take a couple of edits, it's going to be pretty close to that. We've got over 5,800 shall statements, so these are what we call the normative requirements. So if you're doing that part, you need to do this thing. And 411 shoulds. So these are recommendations where the spec's recommending that you do something maybe extra, or if you're going to do something, then there's a stronger request that you do something a little bit extra. So it's been an evolving spec over the time. The spec now is becoming very, very large, as you can tell. So who developed 32,000? As Thomas indicated, we have a number of international guests, including myself here this week. So it's developed by an ISO Technical Committee 171, the Document Management Applications Group. Subcommittee 2, covering document file formats, that pretty much covers PDF and a few other things. EDMS systems and authenticity of information. And we're part of Working Group 8, the PDF specification. So in the bold there, you can see our little acronym that we use, ISO TC 171 SC2 WG8. And that's how you decode these ISO phrases. We're part of the bigger community, it's shown in the diagram at the bottom. We have a different working group for PDFE, a different one for PDFA, and a different one for PDFUA. I should also add that Working Group 8 is not only responsible just for the core PDF spec, but also for the standardisation of the ECMA script, both 2D and 3D, and for XFDF. So it's more than just a one standard group, but it's about the core platform of PDF. So in terms of who actually makes up the committee, we have 19 participating countries, we call them P members, and 9 observing countries. So just to give you an indication, anyone on the committee, can you put your hand up just to show people in the audience? So we've got a few. So if you look around, you'll see a number of people with their hands up. All these people are part of the committee, which is really great. So if you have any questions after my talk today, if you can't find me, please talk to another committee member. The working group is, in actual fact, the whole of TC 171 and SC2 is organised and chaired by ANSI, the US standards body, and the AIM organisation. And they also run the secretariat, so they organise all the meetings and everything. In order to attend an ISO meeting, you need to be a registered subject matter expert. So you can either register as a national member, part of your national body, or the PDF Association has an official liaison with ISO, so you can attend through your PDF Association membership. However, you do need to register, you can't just rock up. And over the years, we have invited various experts along. If we've had problems in fonts, we've invited some experts on fonts or colour, those kind of things. So we consult with other groups when we feel that we want some other input. The document, as I said, is so large that this project, 32,000, has 2 project leaders. Normally it's just one, but the document is very large. So in 2011, there were 2 project leaders elected to develop. So as project leader or co-project leader, our responsibilities are to chair the working group meetings, to process and manage the comments on the document. And I should add, this is a very formal process. We produce a document, we put it out for review to all the national bodies. People comment sort of a line at a time, each comment. These get sent back to the project leaders. We disposition the comments, which means we review them and we propose a solution. That proposed solution is sent back out to the member bodies. Then we meet, we go through those the resolutions that have been proposed. Maybe we adjust some, maybe we change some. And then we update the document so everyone has a clear understanding of what was agreed in the meeting. Then a new document is published and we repeat that. And we've been doing this twice a year since 2008. So it's a lot of work. It's a very methodical process, but generally speaking, it's a good process. The project leaders, myself and Duff, do all the editing. So we actually make the changes to the document. And we also manage the document quality and the consensus process. So we do reach out to a number of experts in the community, often members of the committee, to ask for advice on maybe how we should resolve something, or if there's some conflict, maybe seeing if we can get some middle ground, maybe talking to people to try and reach the consensus. As I mentioned before, there's been a number of project leaders. I took over from Cherie Acom in 2015, who was from Microsoft, and prior to that, James King from Adobe was project leader for a number of years. So without the project leaders and all the members, we wouldn't really have the spec. It is really a group effort, and a lot of people have put a lot of time in over the years. So thank you to everyone who's contributed. So I was hoping this slide would actually say it's published, but it's not. I've got 3 normative references to fix up, and then we submit to ISO, and then we should be done. So hopefully it'll be very soon, hopefully by the end of the week. So now I'm going to get into the meat of the presentation. I will go fairly rapidly. There's obviously a lot of changes. I hope to have a little bit of time at the end for questions and answers. But anyway, we'll just jump in. As I said, I am not going to focus on the technical details. I'm going to focus more on the merits of the ideas that were added or changed in PDF 2.0. So let's talk about the guiding principles before we talk about the actual content. So the first things for PDF is it is backwards compatible. We're not breaking anything. We're aligned with common implementations and also with user expectations about how PDF has worked in the past. It's a feature-rich for all users and all use cases. This is not a subset standard focusing only on print or archiving or engineering. It has to support all the use cases, and you will see some new features specifically for some new users out there. Now, the way that the standards typically work is that the subset standards, PDFX, PDFE, PDFA and PDFUA, can take this base spec and then they can prohibit something, they can restrict it to a limited range of values, they can constrain it, they can even add extra stuff, as you would appreciate. So the spec also describes both interactive and non-interactive processing, and one of the key things we've done in the spec in the review process has made sure we're quite precise about whether we're talking about an interactive processor, a non-interactive processor such as a printer, or basically any processor. We've changed our wording away from a conforming reader to talk about conforming files. And I'll talk about a bit more about this in a minute. We have gone and updated many descriptions of many features. Okay, a lot of them have got longer, but I don't think we've been overly prescriptive. Certainly, implementers have a number of options to implement any feature, so what we try to describe is the outcome. You can still implement your code differently from other companies and create differentiated products, but we believe the description is more precise to give people a more common experience. We obviously retain the precise appearance model, the imaging model, which is very important for PDF. People want to see the PDF exactly as they should see it. We've improved the clarity, removed ambiguities, and there's been many, many corrections in the text. And I'm talking many, many. The references, which I briefly mentioned earlier, have also been updated. They now refer to the non-proprietary technologies, and we're using the open standards as much as possible. So many of the technologies that were originally used in PDF are now either RFCs or ISO standards in their own right, or standards through other bodies. So it really is a platform built on open standards. And from a user perspective, as in somebody who actually reads the spec, we've updated the document, so the cross-referencing and the actual usability of the document is much better. I don't know how many cross-references were added, but it's probably in the order of thousands. So when you're reading a certain chapter and it refers you to a new concept or another concept, there will be a link that takes you to that point in the document. And that's because our experience is people who have used the document, unless you read the whole document, you could easily miss important pieces of information related to a topic that maybe was in another chapter. So we appreciate that no one will read all 970 pages. So what we want to do is make sure that when you're looking up a topic, that you are getting all the information on the topic, not just based on some heading that you think is appropriate. So that's been a big change, and actually in our reviews recently, in the last couple of reviews, it's actually been very useful in able to navigate this quickly in the document. The document will also have it's going to be a tagged PDF file for those that are interested, with bookmarks as well. So we hope it'll be a very useful and accessible document in all respects. What hasn't changed? Well, really the key value proposition of PDF. It's reliable, it's portable, it's fixed layout model, it's self-contained, deterministic appearance, author control, all the things we've heard about this week or yesterday. We cover, as I've mentioned, a wide range of use cases and applications, and we support both open and closed workflows. The technical fundamentals of PDF also haven't changed. The file structure hasn't changed. The syntax and grammar hasn't changed. Many, many things haven't changed. We may have changed the words that describe the feature, but fundamentally the features haven't changed. So I would say that PDF2 is an evolution, not a revolution. In terms of technology, you can take your existing implementations and you can evolve them towards PDF 2.0. You don't have to throw out all that hard work you've done. You can build upon it and you can take your technologies forward. Okay, so now we're going to start to deep dive. So in terms of conformance, we've changed the processor requirements and recast them as conforming file requirements where possible. Sometimes this isn't possible, especially with interactive requirements. Because we believe this will be easier to test and validate. And I think one of the things that we all face in this room is the number of PDF files out there that aren't, technically speaking, 100% conformant to the PDF spec as it stood in previous versions. So by creating a specification that talks about the file, how the data structures should be, what you should see in the file, this should be easier to take forward validators and so forth. And it does require PDF writers to create valid PDF files. As I mentioned, we do have a distinction between interactive and non-interactive processor requirements. Those words are very key depending on what product you're developing. And there's certainly no requirement or no expectation that you implement all of PDF 2.0. It's a massive spec. But for any feature you do implement, or you choose to implement, you shall comply. So that's really what we're asking. Those are my words. It doesn't actually say that in the spec. Again, you can pick and choose what your business needs to support, what your customers need. But where the feature is in the PDF spec, we really do need you to comply with what's written there. Normative references. So as you would appreciate, PDF builds on lots of technology. It currently has 91 normative references. It might be 94 or 87 or somewhere around there, but it's a large number. And we also have 50 in the bibliography. In contrast, 32,000 Part 1 had 78 normative and 41 in the bibliography. So it's been an increase. This is not necessarily because the technologies, we've added so much more. A lot of it is because previously there wasn't a reference to a certain technology and you had to be knowledgeable to find that. So we've tried to provide all the information so you as a consumer of this document will know exactly what version of something we're talking about. This has resulted from a detailed technical review, clear references to the other specifications, as I said, open, vendor-neutral, standardised technologies. Many technologies are now RFCs or ISO standards in their own right. We're ensuring as much as possible that all reference materials are available. We've updated, withdrawn or superseded specifications. When an ISO standard is withdrawn, you can no longer acquire it, which is obviously a problem. And also as the technology's evolved, we want to keep up. And just as an example, a very easy example, and it's not the only ones, we've moved the spec from Unicode 4 to Unicode 8, and you can see that one of the digital signature documents has moved from the 2000 edition to the 2009 edition. And you would appreciate that in the encryption and cryptography world, that's a significant step forward. In terms of advancing the art, so I'm now getting into the more detail, and these are just sort of in random order. There's nothing implied about the ordering here. We've added UTF-8 support as a primary data coding standard in the spec. We used to have UTF-16BE, PDF doc encoding. Well, now we have UTF-8 as well. And that should help with transcoding data to and from XML and other formats. It's much more how the world works now. To avoid processing problems and consistency with the ISO subset specifications, we are now requiring the file IDs in the trailer dictionary. We have also added a length key for inline images after a lot of discussion, and this is to try and constrain the sizes of inline images. In terms of consistency of appearance, we've clarified how resource inheritance should work. The handling of dashed and degenerate lines, there's been lots of discussions there to make sure we get exact appearance. We now require appearance stream for annotations, again, so all processors have an equal chance to show what the document contains. And we also have introduced a new feature called halftone origin for anyone in the printing industry to create the origin for the halftone screens. In terms of the better user experience, we now have thumbnails for embedded files, enforced print scaling requested from the engineering community, and collection navigation. So the way that you navigate portfolios or collections is now much better described, again, for consistent experience. We have a number of sections that we've called out as being substantially rewritten. A lot of the rewrites have happened over many, many years and many, many iterations, and a lot of because either we recognise that the words that were there were not 100% clear to everybody, or maybe where the technology has changed. In the case of rendering and transparency, we've tried to make it very, very clear how that model works and what should happen under all cases. What happens when you don't have files in a PDFX conformant, but a general file. For digital signatures, obviously, the world has changed greatly, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Metadata, an important aspect now for PDF files. We've standardised on XMP, and I will talk about that in a minute as well. Yesterday, we heard a lot about tagged PDF and accessibility. Again, those sections have been largely rewritten, and accessibility support goes hand in hand with that. So by rewriting these sections, we've hoped to improve the interoperability and ensure consistency across implementations so that people do really have that portable document experience. List of the features here. I will go into not every one of these, but a lot of these. They range from new features, the unencrypted wrapper documents, rich media annotations, new formats for 3D. Some of these we spoke about yesterday, and some are probably new. So I'm going to go through what I think are the key ones. I apologise to anyone if I missed your favourite feature, but I just really couldn't cover everything. So let's begin with the unencrypted wrapper document, a new feature. So as you would appreciate, custom security handlers have always been supported in PDF, and that's been great. It's provided some great solutions out there. But the experience from a user's point of view has not always been great. If you open one of these documents or try to process it, often you would get some obtuse error message and you didn't really know what was going on, especially if you're not a technical person. So the unencrypted wrapper allows for a cover page, an unencrypted page, and that can provide guidance to an end user about how they can access the technology or get the technology to decrypt the encrypted payload. So the concept is that it's described in such a way that if you already have that technology built into your product, then you don't actually have to show this page. You can go right to that encrypted payload. So we hope this will give a better user experience for non-standard security protocols that are out there. Black point compensation, this is one for the print people, for people into imaging. So this enables details and shadows to be retained by utilising all available black levels in an output device. And this is defined per object in PDF 2.0. It uses another ISO standard for the black point compensation algorithm, and it should provide a better and more consistent output of darker images. Some previous implementations would have various knobs and options to do black point compensation, but now we've standardized it in the PDF file itself. Annotations, we have new projection, 3D, and rich media annotations. Rich media replaces the movie and sound annotations and provides a common format-neutral framework for multimedia files. We have 3D projections for geospatial 3D and 3D measurement units, and I will cover geospatial in just a minute. We've also defined new tab ordering controls of field and annotations, including by structure. And we've also enabled transparency and blend mode attributes for annotations. So instead of having opaque annotations over your content, you can now have transparency. We've added PRC support for 3D. PRC is a 3D visualization format developed in TC171 in the engineering group. And this provides more capabilities than the previous U3D format. So we're hoping these annotations will provide better rich media and 3D experiences in PDF, and also enable better user experiences for review and comment workflows where annotations, if they get very busy, can be quite hard to see. PADES signatures, very complex topic, and to be honest, I'm not an absolute expert in this area. So I'm just going to really say that we've aligned PDF2's capabilities with the EU and the ETSI digital signature standards. It's a big step forward. It is a complicated area. The chapters are long, as I mentioned, but it is aligned, I can assure you of that. And we've tried to add lots of informative notes in the spec, informative meaning it's just guidance and information, pointing you to where the clauses in these other specs are, what the relevant things are, how the naming matches up with other specs. We've added long-term validation of signatures. There are two new dictionaries, the document security store and the document timestamp. So again, I'm not going to go into the details. It's a complicated area. If you're into digital signatures, hopefully you'll understand these, again, based on existing standards. And we support a collection of validation information to verify signatures at a later time, so the document can be verified at a later time. And we're really hoping this will enable more workflows with strong integrity and trust. And I think we're believing that digital signatures are going to be part of a PDF and in the business forum for a while yet. Geospatial features. So this is a new topic. It's we don't actually have a subset standard for geospatial. The engineering standard is focused on the sort of the architectural and mechanical engineering. We've established a number of new features in PDF supporting geospatial coordinate systems. We support latitude, longitude, and altitude in real-world units. So when I say real-world, I mean meters and kilometers and foots and miles and all that kind of thing. And this is important because it's complicated if you're doing proper geospatial. You need to define transforms between the 3D curved geographic coordinate systems, the real world, and the 2D flat page of PDF. And this all corrects all for distortions. It's a rather complex area. It's obviously fairly niche, but without that in there, this whole market really was struggling. So we hope this enables PDF use cases for maps and satellite imagery. And certainly it's been developed by a group specifically asking for this feature in PDF. Tagged PDF. We heard a lot about tagged PDF yesterday. in terms of the benefits it brings to next-gen PDF, as well as the accessibility benefits. So we have restructured the semantics model with a revised tag set, namespaces, and a lot more. We use namespaces for identifying and exchanging custom structure types in tag PDF, and there was a few talks yesterday that explained how you can do that either with your own tag set or a tag set from another industry. MathML is a first-class citizen now of PDF in terms of namespace. And we've also added pronunciation hints into the spec to assist those read-aloud technologies. So in summary, this again is a relatively big change. There's new annexes related to this. It's a significant number of pages. So tag PDF in PDF 2.0 is much cleaner. There are fewer tags. I think we removed 13 and added 8, somewhere around those numbers. We believe it's much clearer. So it's much better description of the tags, what each one is and when it should be used, and a clearer indication of where they can and cannot be used. There's a very big table in the annex which tells you which ones can be childs of which ones. And it's much more flexible and open-ended. So we haven't been so prescriptive. We've really left that for the subset standards to be more prescriptive about, for accessibility, this is the recommendation. We're hopefully providing a framework which will lead to better accessibility, a new version of PDF UA, as well as next generation PDF, which we heard a lot about yesterday. Document part metadata. This was originally defined in PDF VT. Now this VT is a print standard related to variable transactional printing, meaning like mail merge or your utility bill or something like that, very, very large documents typically. And this is descriptive metadata for PDFs made up of multiple sub-documents. For example, as I said, mail merge, variable data, even a booklets with covers, or just a collation of documents, multiple documents merged into a single PDF file. As you would appreciate, when you create a PDF under those conditions, you have to decide at the creation time what the ordering of those sub-documents are. Okay? And you might pick it to optimize your print workflow, or you might choose the ordering to match your mailing requirements, or it might be alphabetical based on your database. And the problem with that is that when different workflows require a different set of ordering of those sub-documents, you really had to create another PDF file or pull it apart and do other things, and that was very laborious. So we introduced the structures from PDF VT. We loosened some of the requirements. Again, we've tried to generalize the requirements. We're opening it up for new opportunities. And we hope this enables workflows for multi-part documents without modifying the file or creating yet another PDF file. Associated files, again, we heard a lot about this yesterday in the NextGen talks. It's a core aspect of how NextGen works. They provide a means to associate content in other formats with selected objects of a PDF file and to identify the relationship between them. That's actually a quote from the spec. So the PDF object can effectively be anything: the document, a page, a graphics object, a structure element, an annotation, a font, anything. And then we have a key called AF relationship, which describes the semantic relationship, and there's a list of the relationships that are listed in the spec are defined here. Now PDF 2.0 doesn't give you any explicit instructions on what you should do. This is a mechanism, it's a framework in which we hope other technologies will build on. So NextGen is just one aspect of that. I think somebody yesterday was also talking about using it for accessibility as well. So we hope this gives new capabilities through the semantic relationships between PDF objects at a true object level and other arbitrary data. So we can attach MathML to an equation, a spreadsheet or raw data to a graphic, business XML to electronic invoice, which is how Zugford, I probably pronounced that badly, works, or maybe even bibliographic data to references. There's lots of opportunities here for you to be creative with this feature. Metadata. As I mentioned, we've standardized now on XMP. This is an XML-based metadata, commonly used across many file formats, and many systems already know how to process and handle and index and understand XMP. XMP is itself an ISO standard developed in the TC130 community, which is the graphic arts standards groups. And XMP metadata is now a first-class requirement of PDF 2.0. This makes it fully aligned with the subset standards, which have always required the use of XMP. You can also attach XMP metadata to any object, so lots of objects in PDF files can have XMP data, and that's already been in industry for a while from various products. And you can also encrypt the metadata with the new encryption algorithms, the AES 256-bit algorithms. So the original DocInfo metadata dictionary metadata model is deprecated, and I'll talk about deprecation in a minute. So as I said, this provides richer, easier and better indexing for everybody and consistency with the subset standards. New capabilities for existing features. I'm not going to read through the list. I've already mentioned a few of those. Other ones that might be of interest to people is we now have full Unicode passwords for encrypted files, so foreign language passwords. There's a lot there. I think I've covered most of them. I'll just skip forward. We can come back to this slide at the end if anyone has any questions. Output intents. Well, again, yesterday we heard a little bit about output intents in a couple of the talks. So output intents was introduced in PDF 1.4 to provide a means for matching color characteristics of a PDF document with those of a target output device. They're effectively ICC profiles, and they can override working spaces during viewing and printing to give you a very deterministic color model. So we previously had these defined at a per document level, and this was utilized in all the subset standards to ensure consistent appearance. But PDF2 allows this also at a per page level. And the advantage of this is that it allows you to take pages from multiple documents and bring them together in another document, and you don't have to change the content. Much easier to move pages around and create PDF workflows. Transparency and colour, always a controversial topic in the community. We have inheritance of transparency colour spaces. Again, we worked through the issues of common implementations that are out there, worked out how the web should work, and wrote down actually what's happening. We have clarifications on when object colours must be transformed to the blend colour space. We have some minor corrections to the colour dodge and colour burn blend modes. We added support for spectral data, again an ISO spec coming out of TC130, the graphic arts community. This is CXFX4 data. We have 3D viewing conditions, so the 3D models are now much more clear as to how colour should be managed in those 3D models. And we've also introduced transparency with 3D objects and annotations, as I mentioned earlier. So this has been a significant rewrite. We hope it enables consistent appearance across implementations. We don't have to be trying to reverse engineer from a third party. We match common implementations. We provide a better 3D user experience with transparency and colour management. And we also provide new use cases, for example, with the spectral data. Again, PDF2 does not describe how you use the spectral data. It is a framework to carry this in a file, and we look to PDFX in the future to describe exactly what it means and how you should use it. Deprecation is always a scary word. I've put the actual screenshot of what it says in the PDF spec. The key word is it says should not be written and should be ignored. It doesn't say shall. So we appreciate, obviously, that we want the industry to move forward. We also appreciate the real-world impact this will have on a number of files. If you want to wrap a digital signature around an existing file, you shouldn't have to change the file. So we've deprecated a number of things. I've got a list in a slide coming up. We've deprecated the old, the unused, the proprietary, and the insecure stuff. Okay. I should also add there are a couple of features that were actually removed from the spec, so they aren't mentioned anymore. And these are things that were in 32,000 Part 1 already marked as deprecated. So the classic one is PostScript related aspects, PostScript X objects, proc sets. Okay, deprecations. There's the list. XFA is deprecated. Move-in sound and TrapNet annotations. I mentioned move-in sound annotations before, but replaced by rich media. The info dictionary replaced by XMP. The PostScript aspects, as I mentioned, have been removed. Page piece dictionaries. Operating specific file specifications have been replaced by a sort of a standard format across platform independent. The use of SHA-1 for security has been deprecated because we appreciate that there's a flaw in those algorithms. I guess let me just find the laser one. This is another one that may be of interest to people. So all the encryption methods except AES 256 have been deprecated for security reasons. That is a fairly big change, but we appreciate, and I'm sure you do as technology people, the change in the industry in that area. We also deprecated a particular syntax of blend modes, alternate presentations, and a few other bits and pieces. So I'm just being conscious of time here. I think I'm good. So that's kind of my very fast run through of the spec, but I do want to talk to you about how to use the document. Those on the committee have had the luxury, or not as the case may be, of sitting through these changes, understanding, seeing each one go through, and hopefully seeing everything. But to a lot of you out there who haven't been involved in this process, it's a scary document, 970 pages. If we added change bars, every page would just have a bar down the side. Almost every line of text has been changed. Some of this is because we wanted to improve the description. Other times because we were requested by ISO to use more formal language, so we had to rephrase things, new features, lots of things. So my advice to you when you first pick up this document is what not to do. Don't just search for PDF2 in brackets. If you remember, the PDF spec often has the number when the feature was introduced. Yes, we've done that for the new features, but only really in the tables of dictionaries and the keys. We haven't put it on every sentence and every time we've changed a sentence. So don't rely on just looking for PDF2 in the text. Don't rely on subclause 0.3. Don't talk to me about headings labelled with 0. We do have changes introduced in this document. It's about 3 or 4 pages, and that's fundamentally what my presentation has been. It's been a summary of those changes and pulling out information. Don't rely on that. That is just a list of the key changes or the bigger changes. There are other changes in the document, especially in relation to the shall requirements and the should recommendations. And I wouldn't bother trying to diff it with -1. It's a much longer document. We've changed the text. We've had to change the formatting. I think it's a waste of time. You'd be better placed, I think, just to, as I say down the bottom, read all the words carefully. I hope that the language we've chosen is easier to understand, it's more clear, less ambiguous, and it gives you all those cross-references to parts of the spec that maybe you didn't know were linked to the feature that you're looking at. So I do recommend that you follow those cross-references. We cross-reference for a reason. Go and read those cross-references and come back to where you were. It will help you understand. There are new annexes. Again, the general clause and the organisation of the document is very, very similar to Part 1, but obviously with new features there are new sections introduced, and as a result there are also new annexes introduced. And you can also use it to understand -1 or PDF 1.7. And that's because we changed so much of the words to have an agreed, if you like, description of the technologies. The quote I provided is from clause 5.1 at the front of the document. This document is also suitable for interpretation of files made to conform to any of the previous Adobe PDF specs 1.0 through 1.7 and ISO 32000-1. So I know it's a big change. I know it's a big document. It's going to be a bit scary when you first open it up and you start to read and there's all these new words. But it's really the same technologies. But do take your time to look for those shalls, look for the shoulds and understand. I think you'll find it worthwhile. So in conclusion, PDF2 was the first core PDF standard developed entirely under ISO guidelines and processes. So I described the process earlier. You probably appreciate it. It's not exactly agile. But it is the ISO process. It is consensus-based. It's international, it's open, it's vendor-neutral, and it's collaborative. The PDF spec itself is backwards compatible. We have many new features. Hopefully you've seen a few here today that might have spurred your interest. We've improved the clarity, we've got less ambiguities, and we've got lots of corrections. We're now moving to support non-proprietary technology and open standards, and in most cases, the latest version of all those standards. We've also improved the cross-referencing and the usability of the spec because we appreciate how big it is to read such a technical document. And we hope that it enables a solid foundation for new use cases, capabilities and workflow, and next-gen PDF I think is just one, and improved interoperability and consistent implementations of PDFs that are out there. So I do encourage you to grab a copy, hopefully maybe start of next week. And now's the time to start preparing your business and your workflows. And as I said, even if you're not intending to take on PDF 2, reading this spec will help you understand PDF 1.7. So I want to say thank you to everyone for listening. Hopefully you learned some things. I do want to say a special thank you to Duff, who helped prepare the presentation, and also to all the committee members over the last few years. It's been a long, hard road. I think we've all enjoyed it most of the time, not all the time. But it really has been a collaborative effort by so many people over the years, and I think the light is really at the end of the tunnel now. So thank you. And I do encourage you, anyone who's not already participating, talk to your PDF Association committee. They can definitely get you involved with the ISO committees if you're wanting to be involved. The work program at the moment includes the ECMA script, so standardizing the Adobe documents to ISO standards, and what else is on there? XFDF3. Oh, that's right, XFDF3, so for 3D content and annotations. So thank you, everyone. I can take questions if there's time.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much.